Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. It's August 17th, my Lord, halfway through August already, 2023. We got a nice show for you today. Let me shut down the music here. That shut down nicely. All right, we got Gary Anderson here. Gary is the founder. I'll bring him on in just a few minutes. Gary is the founder of All District Reads, and it's alldistrictreads.org, though I have it linked up here on the site. All District Reads, which is based in Norfolk, Virginia, and it's an organization dedicated to their, quote, lighting literacy fires in homes by getting all K-5 families in participating school districts reading and discussing the same children's book at the same time. And he's working with school districts in Virginia and elsewhere, and we're going to have a nice conversation with Gary about all this. He's done some great work before. He's been on the show before, and we'll have a good conversation and see where this goes and where it takes us, and maybe how you can get involved as well. All right, you can check it all out though at alldistrictreads.org. You know that we here at Education Talk Radio are the voice of the American Consortium for Equity in Education, and everything we do is over at ace-ed.org, and we invite you to go over there, check everything out. Our magazine, Equity and Access, all the podcasts are over there, which there are many. Okay, they're all over there, so you'll see the link. We also have the Excellence in Equity Awards. We invite you to participate in that. All right, it's free for educators. Everything we do over there is free for educators, so please check it all out. Enjoy what we do. We're trying to make a statement for equity in these tough times. Okay, not only for equity, but for educators, etc. We're on your side, so let's work together and check it all out. Again, ace-ed.org. And without further ado, let me bring on the one, the only, a returning guest. There he is, Gary Anderson. Hi, Gary. Welcome back. It's Larry here.
Good morning, Larry. It's great to be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Well, if you're good today, you may get a third invite. Who knows? It's possible.
Well, that'd be great.
Good to have you back. Okay, and by the way, a big thank you to our friend John Miklos for helping me put this show together today. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. I want to say something before we begin about All District Reads. All right, and that is that we were supposed to have John Gordon, who's the superintendent of Suffolk County. He was going to join us today, but he couldn't make it. And I just want to thank him for even trying. And can we plug his book before we move on, just to give him a little shot here? Is that okay, Gar?
Sure. Yes, sure.
Okay. Yeah, sure. He wrote a book, which I love the title. I don't know much about it. He's welcome to come on the show, get in touch with me. It's called The Teacher's Lounge. The quote, the subtitle, The Real Role of Educators in Your Schools. And I thought that was an intriguing title. I just wanted to give it a little shot if people want to check it all out. That's by Dr. Gordon down there in Suffolk County, where he's the superintendent. Hopefully he'll come on sometime, but he couldn't make it today. I know he is using all this. They're using it, obviously, in the community, right?
Yes, he is. And he had an active shooter, all the different police departments and all. They have an active shooter, not an active shooter drill today. They scheduled it on the day for the radio. It's just a drill.
Good, so thank you.
He couldn't make it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mislead you.
That makes me feel good. I'm glad they're doing that, and I'm glad they're doing it. It's so damn unfortunate these days. Think about when, well, certainly when I was in school 12 million years ago. I mean, you know, could you even imagine such a thing when we were kids? I mean, it's just unbelievable. No. It's just
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And every school district has to do it, quite obviously. But it's just sickening, is all I can say. And it's a problem, I don't know, that we can only solve this way right now. And I guess we'll get it together at some point to do it. Okay, so invite him onto the show. You can come back with him if you want. Okay, I hate to have him not here.
Great.
We'll go from there. Okay. And so now, by the way, tomorrow, this is actually interesting since you brought that up. Tomorrow, I'm doing a show with the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and they have something called the Principal Recovery Network, and this is for education school leaders who have experienced violence in their schools. Because we always think that, you know, and it does. It affects the kids and everybody, but it affects the educators and the school leaders as well. Okay, and so it's kind of a group thing for helping, you know, so they can all talk together about if they've experienced violence in their schools. A crazy world out there is all I can tell you. I'm going to do that podcast tomorrow. So odd you should bring this all up today, but we'll move on. Okay. All District Reads. You're the founder. Tell us about it, Gary. What are you doing? Down in Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk. Did I do that right? Norfolk.
I call it Norfolk, but you know folk.
F-I-C-K, Norfolk. Is that right? Norfolk.
We have a different way. That's good. So this is a third nonprofit that I've formed.
I know.
And I formed the first one, Read Aloud Virginia, back in 1999. And, we were just encouraging, putting up billboards saying, if you can read this billboard, go home and read a book to your child. Or your children are waiting for you to come home and read a book to them. But we didn't have a program, and then in 2003 formed Read to Them, and that is a great program. It's more or less about one school at a time, but there seemed to be something missing. There just wasn't the community engagement that I'd hoped to be, because the community surrounds the schools. They're right there, and they're an integral part. But a lot of times they're not. They're an integral. They're sitting there on the sideline, kind of. A lot of times, the community. So this All District Reads. The purpose of it was to pull in the community, and for every school systems, and the way we do it, we do one book for the whole school system. All the elementary schools, twice a year, one book in the fall and one book in the spring. And there's a community champion.
Cool.
So a Rotary Club or the Noblemen in Virginia Beach or the Downtown 100 in Norfolk, which is a group of young professionals, 20 to 30-year-old, and they have about 60, 70 members. And so they become the community champion. And what that means is they put labels in the books for every book, and they one member or two members goes to the school on the day that they kick off the book, and they get to know, they hand out books, they get to know some of the personnel at the school, and then they stay in touch with the school. And that is so exciting, because what has happened in Suffolk, and I'm sure Dr. Gordon would amen this, what has happened, now we've done 2 books in Suffolk, is the community has become part of the, connected. And we just had a big breakfast yesterday morning with about 100 people, and it was like the head of it, Dr. Melissa Twisdale, she talked about how it's really unified the community and the school system around a common story. They have a common story and trivia questions, and so this seems to be the most exciting nonprofit that I've ever been involved with, because it involves the community and the children, and it lights that literacy fire, because we do it all in Suffolk. We have 7,000 families participating, and so it starts that it's initiated by the school, but it's accomplished in the home. All the reading aloud of the chapter, and the community champion actually does an audio of each book, and so the children can or the parent can take home their cell phone and hit the button, and it becomes a literacy fire. That they have their own copy of the book, and they listen to it together, and then they discuss it. And so if they don't want to just to have time, or they don't have somebody who feels comfortable in reading it aloud, and it is off the charts. It's just so exciting to hear parents and the administrators talk about the difference it's making in their community.
It's unbelievable. Let me ask you, what got you started in this? I didn't say this at the beginning. Your quote, and I want you to go over this a little more. You're an educator, you're a school psychologist, and of course you're a family literacy advocate. You've been doing this now, you said 1993 earlier, that's like 30 years. All right? And
30 years.
Yeah, that's not bad. Well, how old are you? You're 35, right? You started when you were 5 years old. Right? That's right. Right.
Yeah.
So just to skip. This is a nice thing. A lot of people think about this stuff, and 99.9% of people don't do a damn thing, which is fine. Okay? But what got you started in actually doing this? I mean, this is great.
Well, that's a great question.
A lot of credit here, buddy.
Well, I really appreciate that. So in 1972, I wasn't sure. I graduated from college, wasn't sure what I was going to do, and then a school system contacted me and asked me to teach science. I said, well, I was just deciding what to do, and so I called them up. I called them, but returned their call, and somebody, their science teacher, had resigned just the week before school started, and so they needed somebody. They were desperate. So I had the science background, and so I taught science. I had no idea when I went in that classroom that about a third to the half of my students couldn't read the textbook.
What grade are we talking about? What grade are we talking about?
7th and 8th grade science.
There you go.
School,
there you
physical
go.
science.
And this is in Virginia. This is in Virginia somewhere?
In Virginia, in York County, in York County schools, at Yorktown Intermediate. And I was just dumbfounded. And they quit trying. I would say, study for the test. I would tell them, here are the answers almost. Here are the answers. Just study this part, try to set them up for success. And they still got a 20. And I couldn't believe it. So after teaching science for 3 years and seeing this pattern again and again and again, I went back to school and became a school psychologist, and was told then I could evaluate the children, figure out what the problem was, address the problem, and get them back in track. So I did that for about 15 years. I was a lieutenant. I was just testing children, putting them in special ed, and then I'd go back to them because I was the only school psychologist in Northumberland County. 3 years later, I'd reevaluate them, and then 3 more years, I'd reevaluate them, and they were worse off. The truth is, they had fallen further behind, and the pressure about the classroom, the regular classroom, trying to keep up with everybody and trying to stay with it, that was off, and they didn't like being put in special ed. They didn't like it. So in 1999, I'll tell you a real quick story. 2 men were sitting on the riverbank. And so 2 men were sitting on the riverbank, and here comes a child floating downstream. So they jump in the water, they save the child, they get back to the riverbank, and then here comes 2 more children being carried away downstream. They jump in the water, and they rescue these 2 children. They get back to the stream, and here comes 5 children being carried out. And so one of them starts to turn to jump in the water, and the other one turns and starts running upstream. Where are you going? Where are you going? And the man said, I'm going to tackle the man that's throwing these children in the stream. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I almost remember at my desk getting up physically and saying, I had 30 children waiting to be tested. And I knew the vast majority of them were raised in homes with at or below the poverty level. Yeah. And and they didn't have the skills, the language skills, put it in school. So I started looking up in the early 90s. And for prevention, what could prevent this? Not what could address it and
not how to take them out of the river, but how to stop them from getting in the river. That's what we want to do.
Yes, exactly, exactly. How do you stop them from it's that simple. It's that simple. So I started looking, and I found out, I contacted, somebody put the Read Aloud Handbook on my desk, and I contacted Jim Trelease, the author of it. And I said, you're saying all we have to do is read children's novels to them, and then they download them and take that language and build the foundation so they can build their literacy house. So I started using that as a school psychologist. Every time it worked. I never had any child come to me, and if I got an aide to read to them, or if I got a parent to read to them, it worked. You could see it in their eyes that once they downloaded that story, and there's no shortcut. It takes time, energy, and effort, which we do for our own children. I have 13 grandchildren now. We read to them all the time. but we also explain things to them all the time because we know we're trying to set them up for success in life.
Right.
And every child needs that. Every child needs that. And so after doing that, for a number of years, and then we started working to try to solve it, throughout the state. And then we formed Read Aloud Virginia, and then then I got, and that picked up some traction. But then I had another group said, well, you've got to take this nationally. And now Read to Them, the second organization, is a national. It's on all 50 states. But it doesn't bring in a community champion. It doesn't. The All District Reads has the community champion part, and that makes all the difference because that means grassroots ownership at the grassroots level. The community champion, we're kind of behind the scenes. We step back after 2 years. We do this for 2 years. We give them 2 books free for the first year, every school division that signs up, and we give them 2 books for the first year and 2 books for the second year. So after 4 years, we take a step back. The community champion stays on, and then the schools start funding themselves. We look for private funding for the first 2 years, and then the school system funds it for the next 10 years. And they have a community champion, and that's what's happening in Suffolk right now. We're stepping back.
That's Suffolk. Excuse me, Suffolk County, Virginia. I want to make sure we got this right.
Yeah, that's where Dr. Gordon is superintendent.
Right. There's Suffolk County, New York, and Long Island. I wanted to make sure everybody knew what we were talking about.
Right. Yeah. Suffolk County, Virginia.
Yeah. Okay. Just to be sure people understand that. How do you get the? I'll use the Rotaries, etc. The champions involved. How do they even find out about it? Does that go through the schools, or does it? Or are you guys doing that?
Yes, we're doing that. And basically, as the executive director of All District Reads, that's pretty much my responsibility. I go into the communities. These communities, right now, we're in all 5 school systems in Southampton Roads. And Southampton Roads, on the ocean side, there's Atlantic Ocean, and that's the east. And then in front of them, north, is the Chesapeake Bay, and then there's
beautiful.
There's a river, a couple of rivers, James River, East River, on the other side. So it's really a huge peninsula with 5 school systems, and they have about 80,000 elementary students, and we do our program K through 5, all the elementary students. So in the spring of this year, we'll have 80,000 households participating in our program, and over that whole region. So that gives you, the McDonald's in the region are going to join in. They already want to be part of it.
Yeah, they should.
It gives you regional support. Yes.
So what do you want? This is actually interesting. What do you want? I'm trying to understand the community champion. I'll use Rotary as an example. I was a Rotarian for years. Okay.
I'm a Rotarian. Yes.
There you go, brother. All right. So it is a great group, by the way. Okay. I just loved it when I was in it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I really did. But are they raising money, or are they just kind of? And I'm just using them as, or are they managing the program after you guys kind of step back a little bit? Just talk to me about the role of a given Rotary or whatever.
Right. Well, they have to make a contribution.
Just trying to figure it out.
Right. Most Rotary clubs will give us $2,500. We have to raise $11 per child per year to give them 2 free books to school system. So, like in Suffolk, you have 7,000 students. We had to raise $80,000 from private sources in the community. And many of those Rotarians wanted to participate in helping fund the program, but as an organization, they gave us $2,500. But they opened doors for us to share the vision. And I tell you, once you start sharing the vision and the positive energy this creates in the community, between the community and the school system, there's a lot of people that want to get involved. They want to participate. They want to fund private funding. So if they see that this actually works, and it does, I'm a pragmatist at heart. I want something that worked. I was tired of hearing so much philosophy and everything, and this works every time. I've never had it not work because those children, I think of them as sitting like a bird's nest. They're sitting there waiting for somebody to read a book to them, and they love it. And they say, read the next chapter. Can you read another book? They all do that because they are getting understanding about life. They are understanding stories, all those things. So the Rotary Club, we have a number of Rotary Clubs, but every Rotary Club in an area doesn't choose to participate. So
of course, and we're using Rotary as an example. Yeah.
Yes. So you go to the Kiwanis Club. You ask people where's the Kiwanis Club.
The Lions,
involved.
The Masons. You go right down the list. The Moose, the Eagles.
Well, in Norfolk, they have a Downtown 100. In Virginia Beach,
they have
a group called the Noblemen. Yeah,
well, Chamber
we
of
go to
Commerce
them
in any given big city, whatever the case may be. I mean, you can go to anybody and work this out. But I'm curious about something, Gary. Are you in contact with any of the publishers in, I'll say K5 publishing? Okay.
Yeah.
Like a Capstone as an example. Who can give you discounts on the books, etc. I mean, I know Capstone as an example would love. I can't say what they do, but I know they would love to hear about this. I'm going to make sure they do know.
Yesterday, our main sponsor for this breakfast was Scholastic, and they are really supportive, and they are helping us with the books, and they're just wonderful. So Scholastic is really our champion publisher, and they really get it. They get what we're trying to do. What we are doing, not trying to do, what we are doing is we're lighting literacy fires in homes that don't have one. And once you do that, once you light that literacy fire, because every child wants to participate, because when they go to school the next day, they have a trivia question. So they all listen to chapter 1, and then when they get to school, the principal says, the trivia question, what color was the hat that Tim was wearing? And so all the children write their name, they write their answers, or the teacher aide writes their answers. They send them all up to the principal's office, and then they choose a winner from every class. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. All we want is participation. And so then they get a free coupon to McDonald's, or they get a coupon for ice cream tomorrow, or whatever. And that goes on for a whole month almost. And they love those trivia questions, and they want to know. They want to know what's going on. Plus, they're having fun. They're having quality time with their family. Yeah.
Well,
and
people
fun.
have been reading. People have been reading since. Excuse me. Since that was. Sorry about that, everybody. That was people have been reading since Gutenberg wrote. They love to read. Gutenberg created the printing press, and that was that.
Yes.
And if you can provide the books, provide the reading source, okay, you're halfway there. And a lot of people don't have books in their home at all. Okay, they don't know from books. They go to school. They don't know what is this thing. Okay, there's no books in the home at all. And and poverty plays a big role in this. And if we don't do something about this, we lose a lot of kids. We just gave up on them, okay? And but it wasn't just the kids who lost. A lot of those kids are bright, all right? Yeah. And they never were able to fulfill, quote, their brightness destiny, their intelligence destiny, because they didn't even know they were intelligent, because they were never given the opportunity to be intelligent. And this is so important. You make somebody literate, you open the world to them. All right, it's that simple. Yes. All right, and
that's simple.
It's just amazing. And you said, I'll tell you a story. I had a friend who was a professor at a community college outside of Detroit, and she had students who graduated from Detroit schools a number of years ago, in their top 10, their top 50 kids. Okay, and they go to the community college, which is what they could afford. And they go to the community college. It turns out they were reading at a 4th grade level. They had graduated. High in their class. Yeah. Okay. And I'm using Detroit as an example here because this is not picking on them at all. Okay, it's changed, and it's just terrible because we wonder why so many people are on welfare and so many. It's because we haven't we haven't gone to the top of the river and stopped the guy from throwing them in the river. That's basically what it is. This is really doing that. To keep using your analogy. As we wind down here, we've been talking a lot about Virginia, but you and I are talking to many people nationwide. Okay, where are we on a nationwide scale here with alldistrictreads.org?
All District Reads is only 3.5 years old, and so we're really focused on Hampton Roads. But in my old organizations, I used to do things like this. In Little Rock, Arkansas, took this program on. Turned out the superintendent was in the Rotary Club.
There you go. Most of them are.
Yeah. And so he brought his Rotary Club in Little Rock, which they have about 125 members. And he brought them into the schools. He brought his own community champion, and that was his working, Dr. Mike Poore. And when he took over Little Rock 10 years ago, they had been taken over by the state of Arkansas because their scores were in the basement. They're inner city, a lot of violence, drugs, whatever. And so, and he was appointed to be superintendent by the state of Arkansas, the DOE of Arkansas. So he came in, and he brought our program from in with him, because I've been working with Dr. Mike Poore when he was superintendent in Bentonville, Arkansas, before that. And so he brought our program. So he said, and he's the superintendent, he said, I have a new program here that's going to change things in Little Rock, and I would like to share it with you if you want to be part of it. So he said at the first meeting when he first got there, 5 people in the school system showed up, and he's the superintendent. 5 people showed up.
Wow.
But it's so simple to implement, and he went, and he had his Rotary Club. He was in the Rotary Club in Bentonville, and he brought him in. So 6 years later, he has turned the school system around because he's building the foundation for these children. He's building the foundation. He's appointed superintendent of the year for the state of Arkansas, and he retires. And he shared at our breakfast last year. It's so simple, but you have to focus on the foundation, and the foundation is language and stories for all of us. If you don't build
and getting kids literate and wanting them to read, and you said it at the beginning of the show, you were in as a science teacher, and the kids couldn't read the textbook. So what the hell's the point of being a science teacher when the kids can't read the textbook? Okay? And that's something that every teacher needs to be well aware of. I believe they are, but it's just scary. You can't teach science if kids can't read.
Yeah, exactly. But the front line of education today is elementary school, because if those children...
I'll take it one step further. It's also pre-K. We give kids good pre-K, they're going to do a hell of a lot better,
Well, the parent who shared at our meeting yesterday, she had a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and she was reading the books. Well, the 3-year-old was in the room, she said, the whole time, and she wanted to answer the questions. She wanted to participate, she said. And so
of course.
Yes, of course. So they're in the family. Once you get in the family, you're talking the whole family. They always want to be involved. But if those children, and put them in special ed, it just doesn't work for the vast majority of them. Every now and then you have a turnaround, but the vast majority of them, they still stay behind. But if they experience significant failure in kindergarten, first, second, and third, and repeated a grade, by the time they're in the 3rd grade, they're almost done. They're almost saying, I can't measure up. I can't do this work. And so then they quit trying. And school is hard. You have to try to do well in school. I don't care how smart you are. You have to try. You have to study. You have to apply. And even so you have to do some work. You have to try. And I saw them, and that was the thing that really bugged me. Not only could they not read the text, they weren't trying to do well in my class.
Well, they had given up. What science got to do with me? What science got to do with me? I can't even read. They're not articulating that, but that's what they're saying to you. Okay? Yes. And we pass kids along thinking that's the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. Okay?
No.
And I always
this
say,
is the way to do it.
I hate to say it this way, but it's true. We call these wonderful people teachers. But if the kids aren't learning, they're not teachers. They're not teaching. Their job is to make sure that the kids they're assigned to learn. Okay? And passing a kid forward isn't helping anybody, and it's a mark of failure. Okay? We are teachers. That means we teach people they have to learn. Okay? That's our job. And if it takes the community to do that, that's what we do. And you're on the right track, my friend. You were going to say?
The home. It's the home.
Yes.
You have to get a literacy fire started in that home. And and then that once you get that literacy fire started, once a child figures this out, then they build the house of literacy. And then teachers can be so much more effective when students want to learn.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so this ends up in motivation. And when you read the book aloud, you ignite the child's imagination. You make the story come alive. And all that builds their foundation, book after book, and they take the books home. It's theirs, free. We find private. So they have 2 books a year. And kindergarten, 2 books a year, and first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. By the time they graduate from 5th grade, they've done 12 books in community, talked about it with their friends, their family, and I'm not saying it's totally, but what we have seen is the playing field is almost level, because those kids now, because they're little people in elementary school, and if they've missed out in the preschool, and you start downloading, their minds are waiting there, and to read another book to me, and then, like El Ray Jakes' Magic is one of our books, and there's a whole series of them. And they pick up on one on their own, and they start trying to read it, and that's huge. Once they start trying, then they're teachable. They want to
read. They want to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, and I'll say this too. You make every kid, you give them a rigorous curriculum, and you will see how much they want to learn. Kids want to do well in school, but they can't do it unless they are literate. It's that simple.
Yeah.
All right? Gary, we got to go. This was just great, and I hope we got all the points across for you. I mean, this was just absolutely terrific. Okay? It's all linked up here.
Well, I'd like to get Dr.
I'll tell you, buddy, you're going to go to heaven. Look what you've done. You're going to heaven.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, I'd like to get Dr. Gordon come back on, and you can hear what a difference it's made.
Well, you know what? Know where I am, okay? Please send me an email, and we'll schedule that in. I'll tell you right now, we're very booked with the podcast. It probably won't be till early October, okay? But just get back to me so we can slot it in, okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Larry. It's been a joy.
Hey, thank you, Gary. This is great, and continued good fortune with this. You deserve a lot of credit, my friend. I hope I gave you enough here. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You did. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. And I hope Gary does get in touch with me. I really do want Dr. Gordon to come on the show. It's very, very important. Okay, sounds like a great guy. And I also want to learn about his book. I plug it again, The Teacher's Lounge, The Real Role of Educators in Your Schools. I just find that really fascinating. All right, we're going to archive the show at ace-ed.org, and that's where everything we do is, and it's all free for educators. Literacy's changing. Reading's changing. You know all about it. Let's make it happen. I'm Larry Jacobs. Check out alldistrictreads.org, and thanks for listening.